All right, sixth graders, welcome back. Good afternoon. Our target for today is being able to solve equations with variables on both sides of the equal sign. Before they were just on one side of the equal sign, now they are on both. So we're going to go through a few examples. You can write down this first one as we go through it. There's no vocab for this lesson. So this is the first one I set up, 10r equals 6r plus 24. Now, my hint for this is always moving the one that's smaller. So if I look at 10 R's and 6 R's, 6 R's is smaller. I'm going to move that one to the other side of the equal sign because we want them on the same side of the equal sign. And that's my hint, guys, because then you'll be dealing with positive numbers instead of negative numbers. So how to move that? It's a positive 6R right now, so I'm going to subtract 6 R's. Subtract 6 R's. Okay, so on this side, I'm left with a positive 24 and 4 R's. So now my variables are on one side. That's always my first goal. Now this is just a superline problem that you've seen. 4R, it's being multiplied. I got to do the opposite. Got to do the opposite. So I'm left with R equals 6. And again, guys, if I wanted to double check my answer, I could go plug in 6 here. And I could plug in 6 in this R and double check and make sure my, it's equal on both sides. So you can double check all your problems in this lesson. All right, let's try one a little bit harder. And again, example 1 and example 2 are pretty much the exact same, guys. So I'm going through example 1 and example 2. So you can set up this one. 8w minus 9 equals 3w plus 16. So in this one, I have variables on both sides, and I have just numbers on both sides. So again, my first step, I'm going to move variables. I have 8w's and 3w's. I'm going to move the smaller one. So again, I can deal with positive numbers. So to get rid of it, I'm going to subtract 3w's and subtract 3w's. Notice how I do it. One side to the equation, I have to do it to the other. And I'm going to rewrite it. 5w's minus 9. So now I got all my variables on one side. Now I got to get just my numbers on one side. Think about what we should do to both sides. Remember, the minus sign goes with it. So to get rid of it, I'm going to add 9. Add 9. And those cancel out. Those equal 0. Now I'm left with 5w, 26, 25. Okay, so now all my variables are on one side, just my numbers. So then the last step, I got to get rid of the 5. I look at it's being multiplied, so the opposite, divide, divide. W equals a positive 5 for that. And that's my final answer. Okay, I'm going to try another one with variables and numbers on both sides for this. Okay, oops, let's go down a little bit. Here it is, negative 12y's minus 10 equals negative 6y's plus 14. So again, if I think which one is smaller, negative 12y or negative 6y, this is actually the smaller one. So again, this time it's a negative 12y, so I got to do the opposite. I got to add 12y. Add 12y. On this side, they cancel out. So I'm left with negative 10. I go to the store, I have $12, I want to spend 6, so I leave the store with 6 more dollars. Okay, all my variables are on one side now. Now let's bring just our numbers to the side. So I got to get rid of this plus 14. So I'm going to subtract 14, subtract 14. And those cancel out. So again, 6y's. Again, I'm going shopping. I go to the store, I want to spend $10, I want to spend 14. Well, I'm going to have to borrow $24. Last step, get y by itself. So divide this side by 6, divide this side by 6. Remember, it's a positive divided by a negative. So it's a negative. 24 divided by 6 is negative 4. Okay, so kind of on each one of these guys, I'm getting a little bit harder. And these are both like example 1 and 2. I'm going to do one more of these before I look at example 3, and this one's to do with fractions. So 8/9 x equals 8 plus 4/9 x. It is the exact same thing. I still got to get my variables to one side. So I have 8/9 x and 4/9 x. I'm going to move this smaller one, so I'm going to move this one over. So again, I'm going to just do the opposite. Subtract 4/9 x to both sides. On this side, they cancel out. So I'm left with 8. Now I'm adding and subtracting fractions. So I already have a common denominator, so I can just subtract. 8 minus 4 is 4. This step now, so 4/9 times x, so I got to do the opposite. I got to divide both sides by 4/9. But you're right if you said, wait a minute, we can't divide by a fraction. Instead, we multiply by, do you remember what that is called? Multiply by the reciprocal. So again, I'm left with x equals, I have 8 times 9/4, 9 over 4, so I'm going to put a 1 under this. I'm going to cross cancel to make it easier, and then I can multiply across. 18 over 1, or just x equals a positive 18 for that. So again, you might have a few of your practice problems with fractions. You can look back at that example. The last one I'm going to look at today is example 3. And we have kind of 2 different options, and we're going to see what is the better option. So in my last sentence, it says, how many days would Marilyn have to rent both the video game and the console to pay as much as she would if she had bought the console? So I already set up D for days. So Marilyn has 2 different options. Her first option is to buy the video game console for $74.80. All right, that's an investment. But then she is going to rent the games for $1.99 per day. So it's cheaper to rent it per day if she buys the console. Her other option is she's not going to buy the console, but she's going to rent the games, but it costs $4.19 per day. Okay, so for this, guys, we're going to see at what point is it better for her to buy the console and rent it, each game is $1.99 per day, or not buy the console and it'll be $4.19 per day. So again, this is the smaller variable. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to do it to both sides. Do it to both sides. Okay, so again, on this side, I have 74.80. On this side, go ahead, do your subtraction, 2.20. Okay, next step, to get rid of this, I divide by 2.20, divide by 2.20, or 2.2. So D equals, go ahead and do that in your calculator, see what we're left with. Oops, my pen got stuck there. D equals, did you get 34? And my label is days. So at day 34, it doesn't matter which option Marilyn chooses. If she only uses it for, 32 days, it would be the better option to just rent the games for $4.19 per day. If she's gonna, use it for 40 days, it'd be better for her to buy the console and rent it for $1.99 per day. But for 34 days, it doesn't matter which option she chooses for this. So now go back and look at the examples and try, I'm fine if you just try 2 for example 1 and 2, and then try 2 word problems like example 3 and come to class with any questions that you might have.